The Amazing Spider-Man gets a revival. Spider-Man No Way Home is now Sony's #1 grossing film ever, coming in at $516 million domestically and $1.6 billion internationally. It finally beat out its competition of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. But what does this mean for the future of Spider-Man, or more importantly, the future of the Amazing Spider-Man? Andrew Garfield's reprisal of his role as Peter in Spider-Man No Way Home was so beloved by fans that they flocked to Twitter to create a petition to demand that Sony give him his trilogy. And though I will be the first in line to make sure that my husband gets his third film, what exactly would that storyline look like? Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, or Peter 3, as he's named in Spider-Man No Way Home, says that his Spider-Man following the death of Gwen Stacy was angry, and not the kind of Spider-Man that Tom Holland's Spider-Man should look up to. But before Tom Holland went to Doctor Strange and cracked the multiverse, there actually was a plan in place for the Amazing Spider-Man. Following the death of Gwen Stacy, Peter was actually going to use Oscorp's formula as a tool to resurrect the dead.
Do you think Mark got a fair shot on that, or are you disappointed that he didn't get to finish out?
I was disappointed because I'm totally selfish and greedy, and I was part of the franchise. I came back briefly in 2. Part of the discussion was that possibly in 3 there was this idea at one point that Spider-Man would be able to take this formula and regenerate the people in his life that had died. So there was this discussion about that Captain Stacy would come back even bigger in episode 3, and I was like, let's go.
Andrew Garfield's Peter would have used this formula to resurrect not only Captain George Stacy, Gwen Stacy's father, but he also would have used the formula to resurrect his own father, Richard, and Norman Osborn. Norman's return would have helped them create a Spideyverse back in the day, but as we know now, it didn't end up working out, and we now have Tom Holland's Spider-Man instead. But now we have an Andrew Garfield Spider-Man who's traversed the multiverse, who has saved another Peter's MJ, who's discovered that there's possibly an MJ out there of his own, who now realizes there's a multitude of other Gwens in the universe, and who has finally worked on a team. This Peter, in helping Tom Holland's Spider-Man, also has had some of his own wounds healed. But seeing as how people don't change overnight, and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man has proclaimed he does not pull his punches, it may be a great way to introduce several of Sony's villain-led films, such as Morbius and the Venom franchise. Not to mention, this would be a great way to introduce some of Spider-Man's other love interests, such as Betty and Felicity. I, for one, am very excited for Sony to tap into the world of what an adult Spider-Man has to deal with. Perhaps we could even see the beginnings of Parker Industries, the American global aerospace, defense, security, and advanced technologies companies with worldwide interest. These storylines would heavily involve Felicity, but it would also include Otto Octavius and Electro, 2 very big villains that we know survived after Spider-Man No Way Home. Honestly, the opportunities are endless, and I, for one, am very excited to see what Andrew Garfield brings to the table, and I'm excited to see what the future of the Amazing Spider-Man is going to look like.